Maria. We'll get started with Veronica and Bertha from Child Care Substitutes of Oregon. I'll hand you the baton.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. My name is Veronica Mendoza Ochoa, and I am with TRI. I am with the Child Care Substitutes of Oregon project, and I'm a project coordinator, and which supervises our part-time statewide subs. And I'm here with my colleague, Berta.
Hello, everyone. My name is Berta Camacho, pronouns she, her, ella. I also work as a project coordinator for the Multnomah County region mainly. I oversee full-time educators as well, and we'll speak a little bit in regards to that. Been at TRI for a little bit over 5 years. Thank you all for having us here.
And we'll go ahead and get started with just sharing who we are, what we do, and how we could work in terms of collaborative work across the state. So just a general overview, we are funded by DELC, and we'll go into a little bit in the next slide in terms of our program timeline. We have essentially kind of two audiences. We hire and we train and we connect subs into early learning childcare programs across the state. And so folks that are interested in becoming a CCSO sub, they not only have to meet the requirements to become an employee, which is be able to pass a background check and be 18 years of age, no requirement in terms of experience needed with children, because that is part of the process, that if they don't have their requirements met that licensing has, we then prepare them for that. So that is a nice way for folks to be like, okay, I wonder what this is, and let me look into it. And they are part of Western's employees, and so we have to make sure that we follow those Western's regulations in terms of hiring and also licensing requirements. So we have a two-prong approach there when folks are getting hired. And it depends really on the folks as they're getting hired, how quick they complete their trainings, if you will, in terms of the safety sets and all that to be able to go into a program. And then also we have 58 subsidized hours that programs could utilize throughout the calendar year, that if they're interested in participating with us, and throughout the year they may need a substitute to go into their classroom, then they could also use those 50 subsidized hours. We don't ask really in terms of, like, there's no requirement like you have to use them for this. It's really what they need coverage for. Sometimes they are going to a training, a network training. Sometimes they're going to a medical appointment. So that is something, a service for the programs that when they are using our program. And then this is just to paint a picture here of our time frame here. I like to call this the new kids on the block, which are not so new in some areas across the state, and we are fairly new in other regions across the state. So the funding really started flowing in terms of a spring of 2022. And we did get a $3.4 million funding from DELC. And we started with program development, the infrastructure. How are we going to build this in terms of we're inside, within Western, and it has its own successes and challenges, as we work within the university, as also making sure that we're aligning the licensing rules and regulations into our processes. That way, when we have a program needing our service, we're able to have someone available in their region. And then we started around spring 2023. really launching our program and really working with our CCRNRs across the state. They're the trusted partners in their communities, and these are the folks that we really, the regions where we really piloted, if you will, the program. And then our first substitute began working in June of that summer. And so, as you know, it does take time in terms of people knowing who we are, what we do, trusting us, and trusting that someone is equipped and be able to go into their program. Now, these are the programs that are eligible to be part of utilizing our services with our the grant that we have, and it's the registered family, certified families, certified centers, as well as the certified school age centers. And then the folks below are the folks that are currently not able to use our services. We are working on other ways that they could use our services, and that's coming later on in our slide, our presentation. So who do we have out there in terms of programs? Currently, we have 73 folks that are program ready. We call them program ready, which means they've met all licensing requirements and they're ready to go. You will see numbers or asterisks in those in some of these regions, because someone may be hired already and they're still working in and becoming program ready, like, completing those safety set trainings, making sure that they have their meeting those licensing requirements. So that is why we have numbers total right now. We have 99 folks that are hired, and out of those 99, we have 73 that are ready to go. And out of those 73, we have 21 that are lead substitutes, which means they're equivalent to a teacher position or a teacher qualified through OCCD. And so this opens up the door for folks that need more of that teacher qualified staff member versus a support in their classroom, or such an aide or an assistant. And then Berta will talk about some of the programs that are participating with us.
Yeah, thank you, Vero. So as we can see, these are, different programs that we have within the state. So we have high numbers and low numbers throughout state. So we have currently about 300 programs that are participating. With that, we also have programs that may select their own substitute educator, which means that although we have close to 300 programs, there is programs that have sent someone they know, a friend, a neighbor, or someone that they may know to work in their program. This may be a husband and wife situation where we have those people who are eligible to be working for us, or they go through the whole hiring process that Veronica explained, and then they go work for these programs. So not everybody goes and works to all the programs we have. We do have some that are very just unique to those programs. But as you see, we are still working on continuing to enroll more programs, but we can see that some counties have higher numbers where other counties don't have as much. And that we'll actually see it on our next slide. As you may see, this graph tells us, or this table tells us, the substitute coverage we had from last year. So January 1st through December 31st. We've had 40 substitutes work over 100 and over 500 jobs. Again, with that said, we have substitutes that have covered their own significant other or a family member that has covered these jobs, and that is within the 40 substitutes. As we can see, I'm not gonna go over through all this table, but just to highlight a few, we have some counties that have had more jobs covered than others. For example, Marion, Polk, Yamhill. We have Multnomah and we have Washington, who are the regions that have had more coverage. And then we also, want to make everybody aware and know that we're still in everything's work in progress. Currently, we are trying to recruit more substitutes and hire more subs to be able to work for us. We do have counties like Grant Harney, who we currently don't have we have not had any job covered. We don't have programs enrolled, nor do we have substitutes. We have Blue Mountain, who we have had 6 programs covered. So, it just varies on the regions and the number of programs we have enrolled, along with the number of substitutes we have. So we are, doing efforts to continue to hire substitutes. And we also encourage programs that if they have someone that they may know, for them to apply through us so we can continue to have coverage for them. As it is a challenge, but we're working on it to be able to fulfill the need of the programs. And then with that, we're also doing program expansion. We are continuing to hire full-time educators. We currently have 1 full-time educator covering Multnomah, Clackamas County, Washington County. We are hiring for 2 more regions, as you may see in the map. We are currently hiring for Jackson, Josephine Douglas, Marion, Polk, Yamhill. These regional educators will, must be teacher qualified. That will have full benefits and work 40 hours a week. Again, minimum qualifications are CDA or a step 7 on the Oregon Registry or higher, with a minimum of a year of experience. Again, we want them teacher qualified, so this is what how we're promoting. If you know of anybody, and we'll put information towards the end of our presentation so you can spread the word. With
I
that,
have a couple of questions in the chat. If we could get to those, or would you like to wait until the end of your presentation?
we can potentially, well, we don't have much more. I can answer them. We can try to answer them now. We do have a time for question and answer at the end. So.
Okay, let's just do a couple and then we can just
Okay.
move on. The first one from Begonia, how many subs were you able to hire and in what languages?
We currently do hire folks that speak different languages. Currently, we have Spanish, English, and Farsi, Berta, and also Russian.
Correct.
Yeah, so folks that are bilingual, they're very welcome to apply.
That's great, thank you. And then another from Dana, in terms of access to substitutes, just to confirm, license exempt programs operated by sovereign tribal nations and or tribal Head Start programs, even if not receiving OPK, are not currently eligible? Is that correct?
That is correct, because they are license exempt. That is that is a program that doesn't qualify. Our next slide will speak about what our efforts are what we're doing in terms of being more inclusive to those that are currently don't qualify under our grant.
Great, thank you. And I'll just pass it back to you. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate those questions and thank you for keeping an eye on the chat. So program expansion, as already mentioned, we are currently working on a system for programs that currently don't qualify for utilizing this grant or utilizing our program, our educators or substitutes, we are coming up with a system that will allow programs to purchase hours, and even for those programs that do qualify, allowing them to purchase additional hours once they've used up their 50 hours. So it's serving both people who are utilizing us and receive the grant and then needing additional hours, as well as those who currently don't qualify, and allowing them to use our subs that we already have trained and ready to go. This is coming in the near future. We are, again, it's work in progress. We are continuing to work on this to be able to better serve programs and be more in tune to the needs of those current programs. And with that, we are continuing to do recruitment efforts. So we are currently attending educational events, higher education outreach. We go to job fairs. We're reaching out to high schools, doing, just reaching out to different community centers within our regions, collaborating with R&Rs, and just doing job boards to be able to continue to expand and grow our needs and just the efforts that we're doing to be able to support these programs. So with that, here's our contact information. And we're happy to answer any questions at this time that we might have not answered already, or any questions you may currently have. So I'll open up the floor for that.
I see a chat from Chris. If you have any social media posts, we would be happy to push those out. I love that idea.
Yes, thank you. That's another effort we're doing. So we'll go ahead and we'll get contact information from you, Chris, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I like to add, if you in your work, in the line of work that you do, in this please think about where your partners are at, and how may we come in and talk to folks, programs, potential folks that are looking for jobs, that they can learn about us, who we are. We have a different presentation when we speak to folks like CCR&Rs that may want to learn a little bit more in depth of, okay, what does that look like specifically for a non-Spanish or non-English provider? What are those efforts, or help me understand what we do in order to support them. So feel free to invite us to any of your community events or any other partners that you may have in mind or work with, like, hey, I've heard about this program, and shoot us an email. Maria and Nancy have our contact information. We are more than happy to go to a virtual event or also a in-person event.
And I see Hannah shared that the Child Care Substitutes of Oregon have an Instagram that you could follow. That's great.
Yeah, Child Care Substitutes of Oregon. That's our Instagram.
And I think we sent the flyers out in a recent newsletter, but we can also, and in the agenda for this meeting, but we can also put them on our portal so that you guys can have easy access for those flyers as well.
Thank
you. Thank you both for coming and for making all those good connections.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. And next we have an Early Learning Council update and discussion. I think Gabby and Peter Buckley were going to lead that discussion.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Buckley, a member of the Early Learning Council. I work with Southern Oregon Success, collaboration and support of children and families in Jackson and Josephine counties. And Gabby, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Gabby Hernandez, she, her pronouns, Early Learning Council Administrator. Good to see everybody.
And we're here today. Gabby, do you have anybody else from Delk with you or just you?
Nope, just me.
Great.
Yeah, but I
So,
do see that
today-
Liz is on the call as well. If Liz, you want to introduce
Oh, Liz,
yourself
yes,
really
there's
quickly
Liz.
too. Yeah. Oh, Liz, it's the Zoom stuff. I can introduce you for everybody, Liz. I don't know why we run into this. It's always afternoon, Liz. We run into just a sound issue. But Liz Farrar Campbell, she's also one of our Early Learning Council members, joining me and Peter today. And I just want to see if I don't think I see Marie. I know she might have had a conflict, but okay. Yeah, so just the three of us.
Great. And we're hoping to do two major things today. One is to have Gabby demonstrate this really remarkable bill tracker she's developed with her colleagues so that we can track out bills that are pertaining to early childhood as they go through the legislative process. And then after we do that, we do want to just do an update on the discussion that the council had about having council members attend hub governance meetings. And that was met with good enthusiasm by council members, and we're working on that. So with that, Gabby, I'm just going to toss it back to you again, and let's just start in on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. And let me drop the spreadsheet link in the chat, but I do think that this was linked in your agenda as well. And then I will pull it up on my screen. So yeah, really just kind of want to walk this group through kind of what you're looking at here. This is the Early Learning Council's 2025 legislative tracker. So they council's been pretty adamant about being about advocating a lot during this legislative session. So what you'll see here is, and I'm going to go tab by tab. Right here in this first tab, the agency legislative bill tracker, right here are the bills that you'll find from DELC, OHA, HEC, ODHS, Housing, and ODE, the council's agency partners. These are all bills that agency directors and their staff shared with the council that they wanted them to just keep an eye out for. These are also the bills that these agencies can take a position on. So once the public hearing comes through, agencies are able to basically support these bills, which is important to note, and I'll get to that kind of as I go on. So you'll see a handful of different bills here from each different sector. And we started really linking the bill numbers, the committee therein, and the hearing dates. You'll see that HB 2811, the Imagination Library Program, already had a public hearing last week. Council submitted some public testimony for that. This second tab here, what you're looking at is policy option packages or budget asks that agencies submitted and included in their agency request budget. So this also shows what was included in the governor's recommended budget. So this tab here likely won't be updated until probably closer to May, because that's actually when the budget portion for agencies starts getting scheduled in committee. So this one, you won't see too much movement on these next couple months. And then this third tab here links to council's also following the Early Childhood Coalition's legislative agenda. So you'll see a lot of bills here as well, really specific to, I think this is also where they will be pretty specific to this group. So ERDC, childcare, and I'm sure folks are familiar with this agenda already. Momnibus, EI, ECSE, Birth to 5. This might have some overlap to that first tab, but we just wanted to note that the agency and the coalition agendas do have different bills, even though some of them might be in the same place. And also right here, there's a link directly to the Childhood Coalition's their own legislative tracker. So if you're ever wondering and wanting to just follow that one directly, you can link it there. And then this fourth and final tab is pertaining to Senator Reynolds's Momnibus initiative and the bills that relate to Momnibus. So this is where you'll see those, a lot of maternal health, and you'll see something here with CCOs as well. No hearing dates yet for those, so we'll kind of get those updated as information is shared with us. But wanted to share this with you all, just in case you were wondering kind of what the council's tracking, what they're looking at. We shared this during the January council meeting. It was shared with CCRNRs this morning as well. So really kind of just making sure that everybody is looking at it. Oh, thanks, Dana. That was definitely an oversight on my end. I appreciate you flagging that on the agency budget tracker. The tribal early learning fund is missing, so I'll get that added. Thank you. But hoping to pause really quick just in case folks have any questions around this. I know it's going to take a little bit to really kind of dig into it, but folks can always email me if you have any questions around what is or isn't on there. If you have questions, just figuring out the spreadsheet itself, always happy to have a one-on-one as well, and just help folks out as well.
I'm not hearing any questions, but you did get a great job, Gabby, from Cassandra.
Great, thank you. Yeah, definitely a lot to follow, Rod, for sure. So yeah, this is really just like a resource for folks in case you're ever interested in looking at everything that's going on and just what the council's tracking. So really meant to be just something optional for folks to use. And then the next portion of our time here with you all, just want to say a big thank you to you all for filling out the spreadsheet with your governance council information. So what I'm doing now is I've actually taken all of the information that you've all put into the spreadsheet that Maria shared with you. Thanks so much, Maria, for getting that ready. And I'm putting it into a table where, or not a table, but a calendar per se, where I'm then going to send it to council members to fill out and sign up for dates to join your governance councils. One big question that I'm hoping that you all can go in and make sure that this is in the spreadsheet that Maria sent in is indicating whether your meetings are virtual or in person.
I think you froze up, Gabby. But I think folks probably heard that she was saying that to indicate whether your governance meetings are in person or virtual. That would be very helpful.
So it wouldn't want folks to sign up for what they think is a virtual meeting and then have it be in person. Oh, did I freeze?
You're back again now, I think.
Okay, yeah, my internet's been in and out like the last 2 days, so apologies.
Are there any questions about the governance meeting calendar or?
Yeah, and I turned my camera off just in case folks can still hear me. I apologize for the internet issues.
And Renee, of course, can veto any meeting that I attend. She could just say no, and that works. If there aren't any other questions, I just want to say thank you for letting us attend the meeting again and stay in communication. It's really important. And if there's anything that if you have priorities when you go through that tracker, and if you spot priorities that you say, wow, this would be really helpful or this is really needed, please let us know, because we want to be able to be strong advocates. We want to know what the hub's priorities are on this legislative agenda.
Yeah.
So
And I hope folks can hear me. I did come across one bill this morning that isn't yet on the tracker that I think directly affects hubs. It's House Bill 2217, so that will get added before the end of the day, just in case that one was already on your radar and you don't see it in the tracker. Yeah, thanks, Cass.
Great.
Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Peter and Liz. Thank you all for being here.
Pleasure.
Okay, we're going to pivot to the next agenda item. So Maria and I are so happy to introduce Becky Griffin, our new Director of Community Systems. I think she's still in her second week and has jumped in and been amazing. But I wanted to give her a chance to introduce herself, share a little bit about where she's coming from, and a little bit about her role. Becky?
Yes, thank you so much. I've been so excited for 2 weeks for the opportunity to be here and to meet with you all. And apologies to anybody who's been at earlier meeting with me where I may have already introduced myself and shared some of these same things. But my name is Becky Griffin, and I use she, her pronouns. It's been 2 weeks now since I stepped into this role as Director of Community Systems here at DELC. I'm coming to DELC from OHSU's Center for Evidence-Based Policy, where I spent about 2 years as the Community Engagement Specialist for our Oregon Child Integrated Data Set project. And it was during that time that I first became familiar with DELC and the work of the Early Learning Hubs. DELC being one of the state agency partners that provides data to the Oregon Child Integrated Data Set, or OCID project. And having in that position had the opportunity to have to talk with Nancy and Maria and start to learn all about the early learning hubs. It was really part of the reason that I was so inspired to join DELC's efforts was the opportunity to engage more with the amazing work that you're all doing. And I've been working very closely with Nancy and Maria here at DELC over the last couple of weeks, and they just think the world of all of you. And it's just making me all the more eager to serving as a liaison, both internally here at DELC between our many programs and also with our many external systems partners. And I'm very much looking forward to learning more about the amazing work that you've been doing. I've already gotten a wonderful crash course on all the amazing things that hubs have been doing over the past 10 years, and more recently the work that you have accomplished with the Build Initiative. And I'm excited to begin reaching out to you individually. On that note, I know Nancy and Maria typically meet with all of you one-on-one once a month, and they have graciously agreed to allow me to step into some of those meetings so that I can have an opportunity to start meeting you all individually. So please just be on the lookout for some communications there. If there happens to be a one-on-one this month that just won't work, I'm going to try to make them, as many of them, work as possible with your pre-arranged time. But you might be hearing from us to see if there's another time that works, just in case one of those just won't fit into the schedule or into other obligations. I just can't wait to learn more about the ways that each of you are supporting early learning and care in your communities, and to start sharing more about myself, and for us to continue forging this path together. If you have any questions for me now or in the future, please, I'll also pop my email into the chat, but we'll be in regular touch, and also feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, we'll have plenty of more opportunities from this point forward to be in collaboration. So thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet you all. And Nancy and Maria, let me know if I missed anything there also.
Oh, I think you covered it. I'm wondering if anyone has questions for Becky? Okay, then we will move on to a rules update. We have a couple of slides to share. You know, we've shared some slides prior. We just wanted to let you know about some changes that have occurred since the last time we met. So as you remember, we'll be having rulemaking for 2 phases. This year is phase 1, next year is phase 2. We will be updating current rules and drafting new rules. So you can see on the left side, we've got current rules that we'll be updating that we reviewed last time we met. And on the right side, the new rules that we're drafting now include administration, which is fairly boilerplate about how DELC administers the grant. We have a new rule, backbone agency structure, that provides a lot of information about expectations and just roles of backbone agencies. We had already shared that we have a hub governance structure rule, but we've also added in hub director role. And then we also have the data collection and reporting. When we shared this with our legal team, they wanted to make sure that we're calling out all 3 entities, Backbone, Governance Council, and Hub Director role, so that it's there's an understanding of just the baseline of how these 3 interact with each other. And again, it's very high level. It's not, you know, prescriptive. Next slide. Okay, and then for phase 2, nothing much has changed here. The majority of phase 2 rules will be proposed, so newly drafted. We just wanted to highlight that the 5th one down, childcare partnerships and support, that has been renamed as it is there. It had been prior to include professional development, which really isn't in the scope of this rule. So I'll pass it on to Maria for the next slide.
Great. So I know that we shared with you all via the newsletter a timeline that you can also find on the portal, but I did want to take a moment just to go over the timeline of what we're hoping for. And of course, making a little note at the bottom that this is provided as a guideline and we're going to be needing to adjust as necessary. And I think I will skip to where we are currently, which is we're really in the legal sufficiency review. We got some comments back and are looking to make those edits right now. But we will be, the next step that we're going to be moving into is the RAC recruitment, which will begin on February 10th. So this is really when we're going to be reaching out to you all and making sure that you have that information so that you can share it with your communities and make sure that we really want to make sure that we have a diverse rules advisory committee for this rulemaking process. So that will begin on February 10th. And then on February 24th is when we're going to be doing a rules overview for all of you as hub directors. So you should have this on your calendar already. Please let us know if it's not there. And we will really be doing an overview and having an opportunity for you all to also provide feedback to us during that time, but also having a form or feedback method that you can also use if you need some time to absorb and then provide the feedback. So we'll have a couple of methods that you can count on. So March 1st is when the initial notice of rule change will be in the Secretary of State Bulletin, and this will be when public comment opens. And March 10th is when the Rules Advisory Committee recruitment will close. And around March 17th is when we're hoping to have the decisions announced for our Rules Advisory Committee. Next, on March 26th is when we are slated to have a presentation for the Early Learning Council. And then here we have the various dates that we're going to be having our Rules Advisory Committee meetings. So we have April 23rd, 4:30 to 6, April 24th, 10 to 11:30, and then May 8th, 12 to 1. So we look to have a variety of times so that individuals could do their best to have a variety of options that they could join us at. And in addition, we know that we heard some feedback of wanting to expand the rack, because right now we have been told that we need to keep it at 15. And so we know that there is a lot of interest in this rulemaking process. And while we did not expand the size of the rack, we did decide to add in additional public feedback sessions. And so we're going to have 2 additional sessions, one on April 29th from 5:30 to 7, and then one on April 30th from 12 to 1:30. And then additionally, on May 12th, we're going to have a public hearing, and that'll be at 5 p.m. And then May 31st, 2025, this will be when the public comment period closes. And that'll be so that if all goes well, June 25th, 2025, the Early Learning Council will be able to vote on this rule change. And so that will really allow us to have these rules be effective on October 1st, 2025, which again would be in alignment with our grant agreement schedule. Next slide. And so again, we're going to go over just the Hub Director engagement. So we know that we've really used the engagement sessions that we've had with Build to really guide Nancy and I as we have been drafting these rules. And so also, I think we really wanted to make sure that we're going to have those public feedback sessions, and we're going to also have a form for other people who might not be comfortable sharing in that public setting. We're going to be creating a form that the public and key partners will be able to provide feedback, and that will be coming to Nancy and I and our team who is supporting us so that we can make sure that we're getting really a diverse amount of perspective. And again, we're just really excited to have that RAC committee, and we're hoping that we can really have a really good group of people who apply. And I think that'll really depend on the decision-making process of who ends up being on our RAC. And we really want to make sure that it is open to all. And we will be doing some specific engagement with those that have been identified as key partners that would be great to be represented on our Rules Advisory Committee. But please let us know, and please help us get the word out. And we will be connecting with all of you and sharing out communication so that you can get the word out in your communities. And next slide. And then we just put our info here for questions. Please feel free to reach out to us and let us know what questions you might have. And we have time now as well. If there's initial feedback, questions, please feel free. We might not have all the answers, or we can certainly circle back and get you answers, but please feel free to come off mute or drop them in the chat for any questions you might have. I know that was a lot to absorb, and we went through that. That is a lot of dates, a lot of information, but please, as you continue to look at it, again, this is on our portal, and anything that comes up, please just let us know. We know that this is important to everybody. Evan, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think bringing up in lieu of expanding, having the extra public hearing sessions is interesting. My question on that would be, between the 2 public information sessions, whatever, I forget the nomenclature, and the hearing, like, is there going to be, would there be documentation of, if there were changes that occurred based on public feedback, when would that be documented? Like, is it going to be real time, or is it going to be done all at once? Like, we're going to take in all public comment and then make changes, and those changes would only be visible after the public hearing date, I guess is trying to think of a better way to answer this. What I'm wondering is, will people be able to see how the rules are or are not being responsive to public comment before all public comment closes? Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
So I can take this one. It depends on what the engagement that we're getting on the rules and the feedback is. So in the rulemaking advisory committees, we are limited to the amount of people that are on the rulemaking advisory committee into 15, just so that we can ensure reimbursement, and we're having folks meet multiple times. But that doesn't mean we can't do other forms of engagement sessions, which is what those information sessions are for, and we can have more of that conversation. The public hearing itself is more of that legal requirement where staff aren't actually able to have conversation. It's more where we're just receiving verbal public comment. We are having such a large period of time for public comment to be submitted to the agency and for rulemaking advisory committee sessions that we can actually take some feedback, and there may be some amendments to the proposed rules in between the sessions and in between the rulemaking advisory committee that will have enough time to go through legal sufficiency review and then actually bring them back to the group to have the discussion on what those edits are and give you a preview of how we were incorporating the comments into the rules. We'll just need to ensure that we have legal sufficiency because we don't know what the public comments are. It will be hard to tell you a guaranteed timeline of when we'll get the next round of edits for review to be in, but they'll hopefully be done, and there's enough time in between the rulemaking advisory committees and the public information sessions that we'll be able to do that. And then when the final rules are presented to the Early Learning Council for vote in June, we are closing the public comment period at the end of May, so that we'll have enough time to then show the public what the proposed changes will be before the Early Learning Council votes on them for a few weeks, so that there would be additional opportunity to either provide verbal public comment at the Early Learning Council meeting, but we'll also, what we do each time we have rulemaking is we create a public comment report that will show all of the public comments that we've received from our engagement, and then changes that we did or did not make, and the agency rationale around why we didn't or didn't make certain changes in a comprehensive public comment report at the end. So I know there's a lot of different facets of how we're trying to engage, but we do have enough time in the engagement session that we can rework these rules, go through another round of legal sufficiency, and show them again.
Thank you. That answers it perfectly.
And Begonia, I think that answered your question as well.
Yes, and that will be the permanent record, right? Once you do the 2 rounds, let's say, that will be the agency permanent records of the analysis and the process, and then it will be submitted to the ELC.
Yep, the formal public comment report will be the formal public the formal documents of record that are filed and that the ELC will see.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Just one out of curiosity, okay? Some of the rules that are proposed, really, there was a super loosey-goosey language or barely no language. And one of the things that DELC has to do is kind of like present the data and the analysis behind of that proposed rule. But in many cases, it will be, well, it didn't exist before, or it was not thought when the statute was created. So what kind of analysis of data is presented then? Like anecdotal, saying we don't have anything and it's needed, so therefore that's why we are proposing this change now? versus the ones that are clearly can show some data and analysis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes a little sense. And if I don't answer your question, others can feel free to jump in, or we can tailor the question more, is that we just created an outline of rules that we know need to be updated because some are outdated. And then because of the engagement with Build and what we heard from hub directors and what was needed in terms of roles and responsibilities and functions, and very clearly needing to outline that and how and what the expectations were from DELC and what those roles were, is why we decided to do those rules, and that's why we gave you the outline. We actually don't have the rules that have gone through legal sufficiency review yet. So once they do, you'll be able to see them. And the goal is to have those ready for you to review by the end of February. And then those will be in the first legal notice of proposed rulemaking that's released on March 1st by the Secretary of State. And then the rulemaking advisory committee is actually the committee that's going to be giving more insight on the fiscal impacts and the racial and equity impacts of the proposed rules. We do, and when Nancy and Maria go over the rationale of the creation of some of the rules, there'll also be some background of the Department of Justice really needed us to really clearly outline certain roles and responsibilities because maybe they aren't necessarily that clear in the grant agreement or in the governance council. If we're trying to mediate conflicts between certain entities, what would be really helpful to have outlined in rule. And so we will have some pretty basic rationale around the purpose of why certain rules are proposed, but the rulemaking advisory committee is the opportunity for those who are chosen to be on it to give more impact and more insight on those rationale statements and how they're being brought forward, which includes data and data analysis if that's available to us. We don't always have a lot of data available on certain things with contract or grant management in between roles and entities and functions, so that they're not always using exact numbers for data driven, but they might be more of a legal rationale statement standpoint or a grant administration standpoint of why we needed certain roles.
Thank you.
So the RAC will be meeting as you give feedback. So as the rules are drafted, the rulemaking advisory committee will be giving inputs onto the rules, and they're just the way that they're scheduled is sometimes the team might need a little bit more time to work through legal sufficiency review as they're working through the rules. But the hope is that they were scheduled far enough apart that the rulemaking advisory committee will meet, they'll get public feedback, see if there's any need for changes, and by the time that the RAC will meet again, we could address some of those changes that would be able to be made by the rules. It's really we can't give you specific dates just because we don't know exactly what the public comment will be on the rules that we have drafted and what kind of changes that we'll need to make. It's kind of like drafting a writing document and going back and forth and trying to figure out what works best in the legal parameters that we have. And hopefully that answered some of the parts of the questions.
Evan, I see your hand is up again. Do you have another question? No.
No, just forgot to lower my hand.
If there are no other questions, we can start wrapping up the meeting. I'm just going to give everybody one more opportunity. Oh, Athena, I see you wrote, will the RAC be able to provide input after the May 12th public hearing, as there isn't a meeting listed after that date? Chris, I think that's for you.
Can you pull back up the timeline just so that I can see, because I don't want to misspeak.
Hold on just a sec. Thanks, Kate.
So the RAC will meet 3 times, the 23rd, the 24th, and the 8th, and then the public feedback sessions will be on the 29th and the 30th. The 12th is the public hearing, so that's the time to give verbal comment. So even though the RAC won't meet again to give feedback, the public comment period will be open until the end of May. So you can submit written comments to us as an agency until that date. And then once we have the final proposed rules that will be brought to the Early Learning Council, I'll work with Nancy and Maria on when we can get those out to the public and to hub directors. And then the final ability for your final opportunity to give public comment at that point after the formal public comment period closes on May 31st will be at the Early Learning Council meeting on June 25th when they vote on those final proposed rules. So there's always an opportunity to respond and to write feedback via email. And I'm going to work with Nancy and Maria to also develop a form so that you'll have a Smartsheet form that's more easily accessible to actually submit that public comment that's specific to this rule set as well.
I also just wanted to share that with this phased approach for rules, during phase 2, if we realize that there's some language that needs to be changed from phase 1, we can do that in phase 2. So just something to keep in mind.
Yes, this timeline is just for phase 1 for this first set of rules. The timeline is very long for the overall both phases of rulemaking. We don't have finalized dates for phase 2 yet, just because we want to be really intentional in how we're doing engagement and the depth of engagement that we're doing, because this spans some areas where we've never had rules before. So as we move through this process, we'll be updating you all on what the timeline with the inclusion of phase 2 will be. But again, we can revisit different areas of the rules as we go through phase 2 and as we work out and do more engagement on what these rules will look like in the grant administration with Early Learning Hubs.
Chris, I'm so glad you were on the call. Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks for all of the good questions. I think we will start wrapping up. As always, we have the Hub meeting exit survey. We always appreciate your input on how we can improve these meetings. Stick it in the chat here. And I believe that's it. We're really looking forward to February 24th when we'll be able to get your feedback on the rules. We're working really hard to just strike the right balance with the language. And I think that's it. Maria, have you got anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think just a quick reminder that we have quarterly reports due at the end of this month on 2/28, and you can find the link to submit that on our portal as well. Or if you need an extension, you can do that via the link on the portal as well. So thank you, everyone, and as always, just feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you.